Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Patricia Lee, and I'm interviewing the mayor of Alachua, Florida. We're happy to have him here today, and we are a part of the Alachua County Community Remembrance Project, Truth and Reconciliation. And we are the Alachua Newnanville subcommittee of that group. And our partners are the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program. We're so happy that they are recording this for us, and we'll keep it in perpetuity. And the Alachua Public Library, we're appreciative of their wonderful efforts as well. Mayor Coerper, could you tell us a little bit about your background growing up, where you grew up, and how you ended up in Alachua?
I was born and raised in West Palm Beach, Florida. And the reason for that was my mom and dad were born in Wisconsin, and all my relatives are in Wisconsin. So, but they followed his dad down here in the 30s and ended up in Palm Beach County. And I go, thank you very much. I'm not in snow. And so my dad was a police officer. My mom worked for the telephone company. She was the supervisor there. And we lived in a working class neighborhood, and it was the best thing to ride your bicycle. I had a paper route when I was in elementary school.
Great.
And it taught me a lot about responsibility, being on time, and things like that. But I had a wonderful time growing up down there. In South Florida, I would think anybody, maybe anywhere close to my age, would say the same thing.
Yes.
So I just really enjoyed it. My dad was really, he wasn't strict. He allowed us to be who we were as long as we didn't get in trouble.
That's a great thing. Did you have siblings?
Yes, I had two sisters, two older sisters, and they always tried to say that I was older than them. I had one almost to the day, 5 years older than me, and then one about 14 or 15 months older than I was, and had a great time growing up.
Wonderful.
With them.
Can you tell me what kind of an impact that your siblings and your parents had on your development? And you shared a little bit about that. Would you like to share a little bit more?
Oh, sure. My oldest sister was 5 years older than, and she was always, when mom and dad had to work, she was always in charge, and she knew how to be in charge. So
I know what that means.
Yes, but once again, we went out, and I know you hear this all the time, but you went out and rode around, had fun, never got in trouble, and then when the street lights went on, you came home and dinner was ready. But my dad and mom were wonderful. They allowed us to be who we were, and that made a huge, huge difference. And I didn't think about it until I had a child, and what my dad did and didn't do. And it was, it's not that he was lax on doing anything, but he just watched what we did and make sure that we were doing things right. And all the teachers in elementary school, junior high, knew my dad, and he knew he was a police officer, so they knew who to call, and just in case I might not be doing the right thing.
That's really great. Tell me, what kind of extra high school activities were you involved in, and did you go to college, and where did you go to college?
Sure. We had, back then it was junior high school, and that was actually 7th through 9th. In today's world, that'd be middle school. And I played basketball, football, swimming, and track in junior high, and the first year and a half in high school. I got into different things and positive things, helping people out, and other than playing the sports.
Right. So what happened after high school?
I went in the service. I joined the Naval Reserve when I was between my 10th and 11th grade year. Yes. And then between my 11th and 12th grade, I went to boot camp. And when I got out of high school, I mean, the Vietnam War was escalating. And so they told me, said, you're going to go in and go on active duty. So I did. And I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia, and we were on an flagship for amphib forces for the whole East Coast. And I learned so much about playing war games and doing that. We're not involved with war or anything like that, but we played lots of war games, and we went and did the right thing we were involved with the 6th Fleet. And it was a wonderful experience for me, getting 1,000 miles away from home right out of high school.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and
I can imagine.
Yeah,
We thank you for your service.
The responsibility was they expected. I learned that right off the bat, and they understood that too. That they recognized people that would do things without being hovered over. And I really appreciate it. I came home, tried to go to college, but I needed money. I went to work.
Yes, we certainly can understand that. Tell us who you work with.
I worked for first, AT&T, Southern Bell at the time, and it was we were involved with every kind of growth that was ever happening in West Palm Beach. Yeah, and that got us all around. You know, as a kid, you didn't do quite that. But when you worked for them, you were everywhere in the whole county. And I started coming up here in the late 60s, 1967 to be exact. And I had friends going to school and one playing football and everything. And I got to really like it up here. And like I told you, that all the snowbirds were starting to stay down in South Florida. So I decided to move up here, and it took me a while, but I got up here, and my first year was in Gainesville, 73, and then bought my house in 74 here in Alachua.
And you've been here ever since. So tell us about a little bit about your family, your children, and everything growing up here in Alachua.
Well, I'm not married right now, and my first wife and I, we parted ways, and I know this is unheard of at the time, but in the late 70s, my son was 3.5 years old, and I got full custody of him. And the judge asked us 3 or 4 times, "Is this what you want to do?"
I'm sure.
And we all said yes. And so that was the hardest thing I ever did in my life, is having him grow up to be a bright young man. He's got a great job. I have a granddaughter now. He's a great father, and I couldn't be more proud of him.
That's wonderful. You're probably a good example. And you know it's not easy to raise a child, but you did a great job.
No, it wasn't. But we had a lot of fun together, and that's what I like.
I know it. I was a single parent, too. I raised my daughter, so I know that experience.
Sure.
Yes, indeed. And she turned out just great. Okay, so with that said, tell us a little bit about some of your experiences here in Alachua from the time you came up to this day, changes. Sure. And
we bought the house in 1974, and I was working in different places. You know, we'd go to work at a place where we pick up our truck and things like that. So there's several of those places around that we went to. But it was fun to watch Gainesville and Alachua County grow up and do the things they did. It was fun to watch. Well, at the time, Alachua was 1 square mile. So, and that doesn't take hard to figure out. It didn't even go to the interstate and stuff like that.
Right.
And I never thought about it at the beginning, because I would just get in my car and get on the interstate and go to where I needed to go. But as we grew, I got to know, the very first year, I got to know so many people that were born and raised here, and I just had a wonderful time talking to them. And they were so nice, so nice, that I kept telling myself, you did the right thing by moving here. You know, because when we walked into that house, this is really a funny story in a way, because when we walked into that house, the lady said, it was a Sunday, and she said, "This is the last day this house is on the market."
How about that?
Yes, and the guy that owned his mother was getting the payments, and so I told the lady, the real estate lady, I'll give him what he wants, and I have the money to put down to where the rest of the money is. She says, "Okay." And I got a couple of people mad at me for that, because they wanted to buy this house. but anyway, that's how we ended up with it. And everything came from my heart saying, this is the right decision to make. I mean, even though it was just like that. And and as of this day, it was the best thing that ever happened to me and my family and my son and growing up and everything.
That's good. What would you say was some of your most challenging difficulties during your lifetime?
Well, my son was born in '76, and I had been out of town because they would send us out of town for emergencies and things like that. So I was actually over in Panama City after that really bad hurricane over there, and I went over there before Christmas. I was able to come home for about 3 days for Christmas. Then I had to go back, but then my son was born in late May. Actually, he was born on Memorial Day of the bicentennial year of 1976. And I mean, I said, son, you're going to be president. I know you are. And, then I came home and we worked together to raise him. And then in, like I said, the late 70s, we parted ways and I got custody of him and it was fun. But, you know, he had a wonderful time growing. He had all the fun with the kids. He went to Alachua Elementary, Mabane, and then the high school. And he loved growing up here because he had so many good friends and people. They'd all come over to the house and, you know, sleep out at the house. And, you know, I'd take him to when Pizza Hut was built a long time ago, we'd all get in the car on Wednesdays and go to Pizza Hut and have a good time. And they just loved it. Very good. And you know, growing up while he was in Mabane, and then he went to high school, all of his friends would come over, and I was a lot better shape than I am today. But not that I'm in bad shape, but they'd all want to challenge me to arm wrestling, and it was so much fun because I'd win every time, and I won all the way through high school.
I'm glad you're honest that way, not let the wind.
Yeah, no. I mean, they go like this, and they go, "Don't mess with him." So that was really a lot of fun.
That's good.
But the people you meet way back then, you just become friends with them, and you people never know the people you meet along the way in your life can come back to help you later on in life. And, you know, it surprises you most of the time about how nice people are. And the people that were born and raised here, they would get me in a car and take me around and show me things that might be an empty lot now, but is what is going on today and what was happening back in 1930s. And it was just a really, really treat. Yeah. My neighbor gave me a picture of my house, and it was the classic white house with black shutters, and it was dirt roads. And across the street is where the Swicks used to live with Copeland sausage. But before they had that, my neighbors, the lady I told you about, she, when she was a young girl, her mother would say, do not go down to that open field down there because the gypsies are there. And we'd have festivals, and the gypsies would actually come in and sell articles and everything like that. She said, don't go down there. I said, well, did you go down there? Well, we peeked there one time, and then we ran home. But it was stories like that, and I did an historic interview with a lady named Sneed Davis that ended up owning the Santa Fe River Ranch, and she came down as a teen bride in the 30s and married the guy. He died 6 years later. She got remarried to a guy named Davis, and they ended up being the Davis brothers who owned Winn-Dixie.
Exactly.
And so talking to her was such a treat. She was 92 years old, but told us about history, about riding carriages down to Main Street into the festivals and all the activities he used to have in Alachua. And I learned about the, High Springs and Alachua, you know, sometimes there was a little bit of this.
That's true.
And so I still hear about it today every now and then from good folks and friends, and I have to laugh and saying, gosh, we've both been successful, and that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
And yes.
So can you tell me what opportunities children of today have that you didn't have when you were a child?
I don't know if we have enough time.
Just a few.
Well, like I said, you had regular jobs. Things were just beginning way back then. And the idea is that, yes, I used to mow lawns. I delivered papers in elementary school. We did this, we did that. And after, you know, during school, my dad had gotten some apartments, and I was the chief lawnmower and pool cleaner and painter for the apartments and fixer-upper and things like that. So it was one of those experiences. It was real life, and it serves me well today. So, but because I can fix things,
yes,
you know,
that's great.
I can make things happen, and that makes a huge difference in anybody's life, not just me. And so I always ask my son. One of the things that really got my heart, I told my son when I was growing up, when he had to mow the grass or do anything, if it wasn't done right, son, get your clothes back on and go outside and finish the yard.
You're my kind of parent.
And when he was 30 years old and had a really good job, his bosses in his company expected him to do the job right the first time.
Absolutely.
He wrote me a note, you know, and sent it to me and said, Dad, I'll never forget you telling me to do the job right the first time. And I appreciate that because that's what's expected of me to do, and they don't have to tell me that. And I just like, and it's, we never, we sat down and I read him books almost every night too, but a learning process to me is no matter where you are, what you're doing. When we were in a car together, it was constantly, what color is that? What does that say? What kind of bush is that? What kind of tree is that? Whatever I saw, I'd ask him the question, and if he didn't know, I said, well, think about that really good because I'm going to ask you again.
Absolutely.
And so when we'd go down there, he would start rattling off things when we go down. So as a very, very young man, when you learn those things as a young, it's natural as you progress into the schools.
Okay.
And that was really wonderful.
Yeah. Our next question is, do you feel like it is important to be involved in the community? And I feel that question is already answered because how can you be mayor otherwise?
Well, actually, even in high school, we were involved. We used to, you know, during holidays, we would collect food for needy people and give it to them for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then when I moved up here, I volunteered a lot with the job I had. We did a lot of that anyway. And then they were trying to get soccer on the high school field, and it took us 3 years to get it done. The Buholtzes in Gainesville High had it in about 1980, and they did not want it up there for anything but baseball, football, and basketball. So some parents and I got to be president of the soccer association, but we still weren't on the campus yet, and we fought to get it on the campus in 1990.
Yes, I think I remember that.
And so I was soccer president for 8 years.
Okay.
And we went from nothing to making good money to the things of selling ads and everything like that. And so the girls and the boys could separate and be their own entity. And I was so proud of that. It was unbelievable. And then we did Keep Alachua Beautiful. And a friend of mine and I, in 1997, late 98, we wrote a grant. His daughter would work for FDOT, and she said, Dad, you can get money for planting your right-of-ways. I said, okay. So we did, and we wrote a $125,000 or $30,000 grant, and it was accepted. And that's where you see the first plantings were back then. And we actually didn't stop at phase 1. We did phase 2 and then phase 3, and then they came about 5 years later and did phase 2 free. FDOT did it for us. So it was wonderful, and just things like that. It just comes to you, and being involved and seeing what needs to be done and being involved makes a huge difference. But sometimes it comes from the heart and your vision too.
So how do you feel the political climate has changed in your lifetime?
Well, in Alachua, it really hasn't, because, Alachua has been, and those other smaller towns have been a little more conservative than Gainesville. And so what happens is that we kept a vision of wanting to make Alachua the best it could be. And like I said, in these last 20 years, it has been going strong. And we don't do what other people do. We do what was best for the city of Alachua. And that's the best thing we could do, because we don't want to copy anybody. We just want to be innovators. And I think we've been this whole time. And it's about the, when Dollar General moved out of Georgia, tried to come down here, nobody wanted them. We raised our hand and said, we will. And people raised heck about that, because they thought that the trucks and all that, there was going to be a cloud of diesel dust all over Alachua. But no, it wasn't. It's been a boon for that. And they pay really good money, and they pay benefits and everything like that. And it has not been the scary situation that people tried to make of it. And that was a carrot that led to Walmart and Cisco coming here. Same way with the state building right over here by the college. That was offered to another small town, and they said, no, we'll do it. And look at it, it bothers nobody. Progress Park was going to go down there on 98th Street and 39th Avenue between there and Newberry Road at one time. They rejected that. Yes, we'd like you to come here. And you see what it's done for the city of Alachua. And Sid Martin's been voted #1 in the world 3 times. And it doesn't get any better than this. We have a very productive city, GED to PhD jobs, and we have more than our people can fill. But that's okay. We're doing well.
Yes, you are. So tell me, what did the election of Barack Obama in 2008 mean to you?
That he was president. No, I mean, everybody was elated about that. Now, it's just like any president of all. He had a great personality, and but I didn't agree with some of the things he said, but I agreed with some of them, just like any president at all. You can like a lot of things, but what are you doing that for? And so that's my consistency on presidents, is that, yes, let's see what you can do and what you can do to help the United States, and not anybody else. Select us first. That's what I want.
I hear that. So what are your thoughts on the Black Lives Matter movement and the increasing murders of African Americans by law enforcement? Well,
that's never any good. I don't care, black or white. The things I saw, especially with George Floyd, was one of the most horrendous. My dad was a police officer for almost 26 years. And I know he never told us about the things that happened, because he didn't want to put us and get us scared. I did learn later about some of the things way back in the 50s and 60s when he was a police officer. And I'm going, oh my gosh. And I didn't find it after he passed away. But this kind of stuff in today's world should never, ever happen. And they could have avoided it, but they didn't. And this police officer got his just reward. And everybody needs to be treated the same. And and just try that. But we have such a conflict sometimes now that the police officer's trying to be nice, and the person who's committing the crime or what doesn't want to be nice, and vice versa. So until we come together as a nation, and we have to sometime or another, then it's not going to get fixed. And you got to, once again, you got to choose to make that work from the president on down. And the Congress has to come together to work it. And if they don't, it's never, ever going to get fixed.
You are right about that. The Black Lives Matter movement and the Civil Rights movement, do you see any kind of similarities in that and what's going on in the country now?
Sure. Being here as long as I have, I've been fortunate to meet a lot of people, black and white. And I just 2 days ago, I had a hour-and-a-half conversation with somebody I'd worked with for 25 years at AT&T. He lives in Alachua. And we sat there and talked about his family growing up and his grandfather's family and land being taken away from them and their house being burned down. And I've heard that too much, you know, and I did not know that had happened to him. But it's shocking that there was that much hate and dismay going on in the early days. My dad was a police officer. He never talked bad about anybody. You know, criminals, you know, yes, we have to arrest them and all that, but he had black friends, white friends, black policemen, white policemen, and they were all friends. And that's what I learned growing up, because I would go down there to get a ride home from school. And but the civil rights in that is, I've learned so much just being in Alachua. And I don't really spread the word or anything like that, but I talk, you know, I love talking to the people, and I understand so much better about the journey some people had, and it's a whole lot harder than the one I had.
Yes, absolutely. So, how do you feel about the disparity of wealth and education and healthcare in this country?
Once again, working for who I did, there was healthcare, you know, but there's got to be some way that, you know, that people working. And I do not have that answer, you know, because small companies cannot provide health care for that. So
That's
what
true.
can we do? I'm not sure I believe in giving health care away. But if there's some way that they can find a way that they can help pay for some of it, I think that would be a good idea. Because, you know, when you start giving so much away, your debt does this. And that's what's happening right now. And so I don't think there's too many people thinking outside the box right now. And I wish they would, because maybe if they came together, they could find a solution. And I hope that happens.
Yes, you and I both. So how has COVID-19 pandemic affected you and your family?
Made me wear this mask. But other than that, I refuse to be sequestered in my house. And when I say that, I'm not trying to be a wise guy, but, you know, I have an acre where I live. My neighbor has an acre, so I can go out in my yard and mow and do stuff and do different things. But if you look, it's going to take you 5 minutes to get out in the middle of nowhere here. If you get in your car, go to a park, get out, take the kids out for a walk, you know, on a trail or something like that. Go to a lake, go fishing, do this, do that. I mean, there's tons of things to do, and you can still have fun without being in the house. But one of the things that's bad about that too is that, you know, I didn't grow up with phones or games or anything like that. But the people need to put those aside and get outside and understand what Mother Nature has to say to them.
Yes. Okay. Is there anything else you would like to share with us that I may not have asked you about today?
Well, please, everybody, I always ask them to please learn about Alachua and their history if they're living here, because there's so much good stuff that's happened here that I ask them to understand where they live, and what we do. And I'm president of the Alachua County League of Cities too, so there's 9 communities in Alachua, Gainesville being the biggest, but we're surrounded like that. But we have every quarter we go to a different city, and I always ask people, especially my commissioners and the other commissioners, to be there so you get to know and get to meet other commissioners and other city workers from other places, and go to the festivals. Everybody has some kind of festival or some kind of city thing to do. Please go there and see what it's all about. We've gotten into this point of going from point A to point B and not taking time to go somewhere else.
Absolutely.
And I hope they do.
Okay. Well, we certainly appreciate your participation, Mayor, and thank you so very, very much.
My pleasure.